there are two economies that some economists acknowledge and some speak of. There's the producing economy, where people go to work every day and produce the goods and services that we need to live, and from which we earn income to buy what we need for ourselves and our families. That's one income and one type of economy. And the producing economy itself functions fairly well, even though a lot of our better manufacturing jobs have been exported to places like China. Still, the producing economy is reasonably functioning, and it's highly technology based, and technology is always producing productivity increases, and people have the benefit of that. And the same process is happening all around the world because increasingly we live in a globalized economy. So that's one thing. The other aspect of it is the financial economy. Now, there's an economist I'm very fond of. His name is Dr. Michael Hudson. He calls it the FIRE economy. It's finance, insurance, and real estate. And this is not an economy that produces goods and services. This is the economy that finances it, that speculates on it, that handles credit for it, that makes loans in order for people to be able to utilize the producing economy. Well, this economy has become more and more responsible for the growth of the gross domestic product, which is now $14 to $15 trillion. It's become more profitable than the producing economy. More and more people have been employed in it, and it's leveraged so much debt, debt upon debt upon debt, that the financial bubbles that have occurred in this economy, including the housing bubble, have now all blown up, and they've all blown up at the same time. If you look at the whole economic functioning of the United States, a debt load on our economy of somewhere around $50 to $55 trillion. That's the amount of money people owe. I mean, the federal deficit now is almost $11 trillion. It was $5 trillion about 6 years ago. This producing economy, where all of us, do our best to work and save, we can't do it anymore because we owe so much money, and we owe so much money because of the financial bubbles that the economy has produced through the banking system, through the financial system, and this is what has blown up, and it's just dragged everything down with it. It all goes back to the fact that we have a financial system where money is produced as interest-bearing debt. And this is what I studied fairly deeply when I was working at the Treasury Department. Almost every dollar that comes into existence originates somewhere along the way as a bank loan, where banks literally create money out of thin air through their fractional reserve privileges, and then we in the producing economy have to pay interest on that. This is what has to change, and this is what I began to study when I was at Treasury, and this is what I'm writing about today. Well, it's impossible to understand any of this by simply reading the newspapers and watching network TV. I can tell you that right now. The best way for people to begin to understand this is to go onto the internet and start researching some of the monetary reform sites that are out there trying to explain how this system works. One of them is the American Monetary Institute site. It's www.monetary.org, and AMI, I work with them, has put together a model reform legislation called the American Monetary Act that would change the system. It would get rid of the bank-centered monetary system and replace it with money that was created directly by the federal government. This website has a wealth of information. I helped write the American Monetary Act, and we're hoping to get it introduced before Congress. But you've got to go to sources like that, and there are others. If you go to my website, I've got links to other places. But people have really got to begin to study this and not just take for granted that everything is as it's told on the network television. It just isn't that way, that you only get the most superficial representations of it, and you get it essentially from the point of view of the mainstream corporate and banking media. And they're not going to tell you how the system works. and what has really happened. You've got to do the research, and you've got to go on the internet. That's the only source today of solid information.